This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Reporter Show, made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and with me today is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
Oh, the Lions are quickly turning into a dumpster fire. They just got blown out by a 2-win football team. And we have a lot of draft rumors swirling around the Pistons camp, so we'll get into those as well. It's a Fan Report.
Okay, well, it was not a good weekend of football in this state, the entire state.
No, sir.
Saturday was abysmal by both of the local college teams in Michigan and Michigan State. Michigan State getting blown out by the good old Hawkeyes of Iowa. You know, that championship caliber Hawkeyes team. And Michigan making Indiana look like Ohio State. I love how everybody every year always talks about how, this is Iowa or Indiana's year. This is Indiana's year. Like this is the year that they're going to be able to, win games and put it together. This actually might be the year. They've got a lot of talent on that team, and they just kind of slapped Michigan right in the mouth this past weekend. So
are you saying that Michigan loss is not as bad as we're making it out to be?
No, it's still a couple of bad losses for Michigan. They are not a good football team. State is abysmal. Michigan is not a good football team either, though. I
think the loss to State is more damning than the loss to Indiana.
Yes, I will say that.
That's coming from a State fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the loss. But in all honesty, though, it just adds another nail to the already nailed shut coffin of they really need to fire Harbaugh. But as a Michigan State fan, you can go ahead and keep him because he ain't ever going to do anything. So, But anyways. And then on Sunday, we were just graced with the greatness that is our Detroit football Lions.
What a treat.
In that clown show, that circus act that was thrown on the football field up against the Minnesota Vikings. The 2-win Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings that, granted, are on a hot streak right now after beating the Packers last week. And then apparently they've found a way to make things click. It's called give the ball to Dalvin Cook and everybody get the hell out of his way.
Yeah. I mean, their leading receiver had 3 catches.
Uh-huh. It's literally give the ball to Dalvin Cook and get the hell out of his way. That's what their game plan is, and that's how they're going to win football games. And fun fact, that's how they have won football games. Beating a good Packers team in the process. And beating a not-so-good Lions team this past weekend.
Kirk Cousins only had to throw the ball 20 times.
Yes, and looked pretty damn good in those 20 attempts, might I add.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns, 220 yards.
No picks.
Meanwhile, Stafford, yeesh.
Yeah, he was not great. Not great at all. He looked like he took a shot to the head before the football game.
And meanwhile, Tua lit it up.
Tua did light it up. Justin Herbert, once again, had a solid performance. Almost had the game-winning touchdown pass. Almost.
As a Lions fan who wanted Tua in this draft, how does yesterday make you feel?
Vindicated.
Not hurt?
I mean, yeah, I'm hurt, but I'm vindicated. I feel justified. I feel like I know what the hell I'm talking about. No, I mean, if there was ever a game that said to me that this act we're putting on, this route we've been going with for the last 10 years just needs to come to an end. Matthew Stafford, I'm sorry. You've been a great quarterback for us, and I thank you ever so dearly for that. Unfortunately, I'd like to go a different route now. And I'm not one that's really jumped at saying that. I may have said it here and there and said I want to start fresh, but I am now saying right now, on today's date, I want Matthew Stafford to be gone next year. I think it's time to end this. It's been a long time coming. He's had a good run. He's had his opportunities to be successful, and we haven't gotten it done. And I really don't see how he's going to lead us to levels of success that we need him to. And I understand he didn't practice this week, but I mean, a lot of veterans don't practice throughout the week, and they're still expected to perform. So that it is what it is. But regardless, this is not a good football season for Matthew Stafford. He's not been lighting the world up and performing at an MVP caliber pace that we heard him touting himself to do going into the year. He's straight up been below average. Not even average at times. Like, he's below average this year. He's not a good quarterback right now. And this team is suffering for it. He's not able to put his team on his back and win games the way he did earlier in his career when he had all those comeback victories in the fourth quarter. Has he had one this year? Yes. But it was against a bad, and I mean bad, Atlanta Falcons team.
I mean, my question to you is how much do you think Stafford right now, if you were to trade him before the end of the season, I'm not saying it's going to happen.
The trade deadline already came and passed.
Okay, let me rephrase. If you were to trade him in the offseason, how much do you think he would command on the trade market?
I still think some team would be able to give you a first-round pick for him. I mean, he is a quarterback that is proven. He has shown an ability in this league to be dangerous. Mm-hmm. It's just not working with this football team. I think there needs to be some type of an amicable split here to allow each party to go their separate ways and the Lions to start over with a new coach, a new GM, a new quarterback, God helping a new owner.
You should have been able to do that last draft by drafting two.
You should have, and you could have. You had a plethora of options that are, fun fact, all successful right now.
But now you're not going to be bad enough to get one of the top guys in this year's draft in Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. And if you want to move on from Stafford, you got no one there. Chase Daniel isn't going to do you any good.
No. I mean, there's a chance Justin Fields can go down as low as 6 or 7. You could end up in that range if you don't win a bunch of games here. You could be in that area to get him. You're not getting Trevor Lawrence. He's just postmarked, stamped, and ready to go to the Jets if he doesn't force a trade. Do you view
Justin Fields as a franchise quarterback?
He's got the talent and the ability, and I think he's got the moxie of one, and you know, he's got the intangibles, and he's a guy that on paper, just looking at him and watching him in film, yes, he can be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. However, I do not believe in any quarterback that comes out of the Ohio State University. I personally just don't. I don't think they've really ever been successful. So with that being said, is he my first pick? No. But is it a pick I'd be willing to make? Yeah, probably. Because I'm done with this now. It's embarrassing. It's rough to watch week in and week out, and it's not even fun anymore. And I know I'm young and I'm not entirely lionized, and I haven't watched this team be completely incapable of succeeding over the last 40, 50 years, but I've seen enough, and I've seen enough to know that what we have right now is not going to lead to success. So I'm willing to move on from it, and I'm done with it. It's just not fun anymore.
I mean, I feel like anyone with a pair of eyes can see right now that what we have on the field is not going to lead to success.
It's what we have on the sidelines too. Like two straight games now, you've had a play where you had 10 men on the field. 2 straight weeks. That's unacceptable.
And last week it was 2 plays. It's not like it was one play last week.
We called for Caldwell's head when he had 10 or 12 men on the field. We called for his head every time it happened. We need to be doing the same to Matt Patricia. He needs to be gone. He needs to go somewhere else and take a long walk off a short pier, and preferably not one in the state of Michigan.
I'll be honest with you. I'm struggling to find a reason after these last 2 weeks. I'm struggling to find a reason why Matt Patricia's his job here. I'm not getting it.
You know, I was listening to the ticket on the way home, and I can actually I may be able to give you an answer to this. And you know, this is the 2 to 6 hour, and one of the hosts was talking because they kind of asked a similar question, and one of the hosts was because it kind of said this, and I agree with him. And I'll give a shout out to Rico Beard on this, and the answer was basically because Sheila Fordham doesn't have answers to the questions that will follow. She doesn't. You know, what's next? What are you going to do with your quarterback? Why did you do this? Sheila Fordham doesn't have those answers, and she's not willing to come up with answers for that. Because there will be questions of, is Matthew Stafford going to be the quarterback next year? She doesn't have an answer to that. Not one that the media is going to like at all. Not one that the fans are going to like. And I think that's why they're still here. And is that an excuse in my mind? No, because she really does need to step up and make that move, and she has to be able to see that this is clearly not working and needs to move on. I understand, and maybe it'll put us in a situation where we're bad enough to end up with the top pick in this draft. I don't know.
I mean, with your next games coming up against Washington, now it looks like McCaffrey against with the Panthers is probably going to be out again. There's a and the Texans, you might be able to reel off enough wins here to not be bad enough to have a top 3 pick because there's some really bad teams this year.
There really are. You're not kidding. But I'll be honest with you. After what I saw on Sunday, I think the Lions are one of them. I do. I think they're. I heard a stat, and I don't know if this is accurate or not. I don't have the number right in front of me on this, but did the Lions really only blitz one time this past weekend? One blitz?
I believe that's accurate.
How can a coach come out of that game in nothing but a body bag after only having one blitz? Blitzing only one time in an NFL game.
And that's a team the Vikings are a team you blitz against.
Kirk Cousins is a turnover machine.
By the way, right now, if the draft were to start today, the Lions would have the 12th pick overall.
Wow, there are a lot of bad football teams out there. Oh, God, what is this, the NBA?
We're not even a top 10 pick right now.
I'm sure that Cardinals win looks real good right now. Speaking of the Cardinals.
That's what annoys me, like how Patricia has a job, because of the fact that, okay, you have 3 wins in the season. 2 of them were against trash heaps in Jaguars and Falcons. I'll give you the Cardinals, but Kyler Murray sure made a lot of mistakes that game.
And it wasn't forced errors either. They were unforced errors.
Like, how many quality wins does Matt Patricia have in his tenure as head coach?
Uno. Uno. And now we look at that win and say, damn, I kind of wish we didn't win that game.
Yeah.
This all just kind of goes back to the mandate that the Ford family put on this duo and on Quintin Trice saying we need to be a competitive playoff team, because that just set the tone for all the moves they were going to make from the draft on, from the draft, free agency, everything, trade deadline moves. Like it set the tone, and it led to you getting a cornerback who, at number 3 overall, instead of going after a guy like Tua Tagovailoa, who looked damn good this weekend and out-dueled Kyler Murray, or a quarterback like Justin Herbert, who very well may be the rookie of the year, the offensive rookie of the year, and is balling out for the LA Chargers. Instead, you went after a guy at a corner position at number 3 overall, who right now looks like a good tackler, but my God, is he a bad coverage corner. And that's kind of what you need him to be, is a lockdown cover corner. Not a bad one, a lockdown cover corner. And you need him to be that right now. Like he doesn't, you're not, when you are drafted number 3 in the top 5 as a secondary position player, you aren't given the luxury of easing your way into the game. You need to produce and be productive and give your team opportunities to win ball games and make plays from day one. And he ain't doing it.
Again, we said this last year. We'll continue saying it. Well, not, I should say last year. We said this 6 months ago, and we'll continue saying it. A cornerback is not a position you take at number 3.
No.
You don't find yourself at number 3 in the draft often unless you are one of the worst football teams in the NFL perennially. And when you find yourselves down there, you try to find a franchise-changing talent. And it's just, quarterbacks just aren't that. Just like what we were talking about when they took TJ Hawkinson at number 7. Like, when you're picking that spot, you're trying to find, I wouldn't say a franchise-changing talent anymore, number 7, but you're trying to find a game-altering talent. And, I mean, TJ Hawkinson's finally starting to come in his own a little bit this year, but it's just not the spot that you take that position in.
Right, and that's nothing against TJ Hawkinson, because in all honesty, TJ Hawkinson's been probably my brightest spot on the Lions this year.
I agree.
Like, I have nothing bad to say about the guy right now. I agree. Nothing. He's been one of the most reliable guys week in and week out. But to take him at number 7 when you were a 5 or 6 win football team that year? I mean, come on. You weren't a tight end away from making the playoffs or winning a championship, and you damn certainly weren't a cornerback away from doing the same damn thing the next year. That's sure as hell true. Because you had a star corner in Darius Slay, and you traded him away. And what did he get? What did you do with him there? Nothing. A whole lot of nothing.
I want to check the engagement meter real quick, Nicholas.
Yes.
We're now, 8 games into the season, 9 weeks into the season.
Yes.
3-5 football team that looks like they probably had 2 of their worst games the last 2 weeks. Scale of 1 to 10, how engaged are you still with this football team?
I mean, just because we do the podcast, I'll continue to watch and listen to the games if I'm not able to watch and pay attention.
I'm not counting about the obligatory watching because we have to talk about it. I'm talking about as a fan.
I mean, I think my tone has been pretty clear on this one. This isn't fun anymore, and it wasn't fun last year, and it wasn't fun the year prior, and hell, I don't think I've had fun with this team since Jim Caldwell was here. It's not fun to watch this football team just be so utterly inept on the football field every single week, and it starts absolutely, and not to make a pun or. No pun intended here, but it starts with coaching. And I know that's Matt Patricia's favorite quote right there, but it really does start with coaching here because, again, this team blitzed once against the Minnesota Vikings. There were 20 dropbacks. You should have been blitzing on at least 7 or 8 of them. Maybe you could have forced a turnover or 2. I, honest to God, don't know how a coach escapes that stadium, escapes the town, having blitzed only once in a losing football game. Like, it just bewilders me. It just blows me away that this coaching staff can see that, okay, we've got a game plan. We think this is going to work. Oh, it didn't work. All right, let's try it again next week. Like, how can you justify that?
And we thought Patricia was, we thought Caldwell was the king of coach speak, but Patricia's coming out here like, yeah, we got to get better. I got to coach better. We got to play better.
Like, got to give credit to the other team.
We're 3 years in. We're 9 weeks into the season. You're still saying the same thing.
If I hear it starts with coaching or I got to be better, we got to get back to work, we got to coach better, we got to play better one more time from him. Because that, honest to God, he literally doesn't even need to come out for interviews anymore. Or if he does, he can just play a recording of his last week's interview because he's going to say the same damn thing. Just lip sing it, all right? Just lip sing it. That's all you need to do. You don't even need to just save your voice. Because it's just going to be the same damn conversation that he had last week. Same damn responses. And it's the same thing every week. We got to coach better. We got to play better. We got to give credit to the other team.
I didn't hear his press conference, but is it true that he said that that he gives credit to the punt coverage for improving?
Yes,
is that what
he did. I do believe that is what he did. He did throw a mention out there. He also gave credit to the Vikings blockers. They block really well for Dalvin Cook.
You mean they blocked the 10 men that you had on the field?
Yes. They use the I mean, come on, man.
But yeah, so like if 1 is I am only watching it for podcast purposes, and 10 is I still have Super Bowl aspirations. What's your engagement level right now?
Oh God, I'm at like a 2.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm actually right at it too. I'm watching because I'm not engaged with the team. I'm not invested in it. I'm not going to say I'm only watching for podcast purposes because I'm still at least
like I'm
entertained by the game
fan.
if it's a good game. So I still watch it as a fan, but like I don't have any hope left for the season because even if by some miracle we turn this around, we take advantage of these cupcake games we have coming up, and then somehow become good in the last few games, we're still going to get steamrolled by whoever we play in the wild card.
If we make the wild card this year, I may just run out in my backyard naked and do the helicopter dance. Like I said, I'm a Lions fan. I will continue to watch this football team. I like watching this football team. I like the Lions. I want them to succeed. But it's hard to it's hard to be excited about watching this team continue with the way things are because I know they won't ever succeed. That's why I would call for changes. You
know what's wild? I know there's people out there that are still like at an 8 or higher.
Oh, of course there are. Though that's your drinking the Lions Kool-Aid slappies over here. Can do no wrong.
But no, we just had a couple bumps in the road, but we're good.
Bumps in the road. How about the last 60 years? 70 years?
Here's my question. Do we want to preview this Washington game at all?
I mean, sure. It's you might have to pay me to watch this game, but What a god-awful football game. What's worse, watching the Patriots and the Jets or the Lions and the Washington football team? Two god-awful teams going at it.
You know, I'll take Lions versus Washington because at least I don't have to watch the Jets.
It may actually be competitive. And not in a good way.
I would actually pay money to not watch the Jets football team play.
They are so bad. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen a football team that bad. And I know I probably have said that about the Bengals last year. Mm-hmm. And who was it a few years back where I think it was the Dolphins a few years back who, honest to God, we had no idea was ever going to win a football game. They ended up beating an undefeated team in like week 9 for their first win.
So here's real quick. I want to have some fun. If you were to set the line on this game, the Washington football team, Detroit Lions, what? Washington
-1.5.
It's Detroit -4 as of right now.
All right, excuse me while I go call my bookie. Like, I don't know why this team should ever be favored in a football game this year, unless they're playing the Jets. That's the one exception in my mind.
There's other places I'm seeing 3.5, but yeah, 4 or 3.5 is basically what I'm seeing. Bovada's got 3.5.
Well, is this at home or away? Like, are the Lions at home or are they on the road?
No, this is at home.
Okay, I'll go Lions -1.5. That's the line I'd put there.
But at -3.5, we'll keep it at -3.5. At -3.5, I'm assuming you're taking.
I'm taking Washington. 3.5.
Sorry, the football team.
Yes.
Jesus, I keep doing that.
It is so weird seeing articles where, like, you know, where in most articles they'd say like the Chargers, the Lions. Like, I see the football team. Like, that is so odd to me, and I don't think I will ever get used to that. Seeing the football team. Okay, which one?
Can we have a season where every team in the NFL is named the football team?
Oh God, Detroit football team, Los Angeles. Wait, how would you differentiate between the Los Angeles and New York teams though?
Just the football team won, and it's up to you to figure out which football team.
Oh, man.
You know what I want to see come back, speaking of football teams?
Huh.
Lingerie football teams.
Yes, the lingerie league was a sight. We didn't even talk about this Vikings game. We didn't even talk about it. I mean, here, let me make it easy.
Are you going to make me relive this, Nicholas?
Let me make it easy on you. Dalvin Cook. All right, let's move on.
I mean, I give you one positive. At least DeAndre Swift seemed to be the leader in the backfield.
You know what? I actually was going to say that as I was going to say there are surprisingly a couple of positives I will take out of this game. One, and you know what? I'll just say both right now. DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson actually looked like they had a pulse in this game. Like, DeAndre Swift, solid out of the backfield. Had 97 total yards, total scrimmage yards in this game. 64 on the ground, 33 in the air. Like, that's not bad. Like, I'll take that out of our starting back. I don't know why they continue to give the football to Adrian Peterson, because he sucks. He ain't the same no more. This ain't AP that played for Darrell Bevell with the Vikings 10 years ago. This AP's no good. He's just not. And, like, I know we don't do him any favors with the way our offense is, but he's not good. Yeah. So stop giving him the football. Outside of anything short of a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1 or a goal line opportunity, he shouldn't touch the ball anymore. Because in all honesty, when he's out there, you know what's going to happen, because you know he ain't catching a ball. And the other thing is, Kerryon, I like the way he played this game. I wish he got the ball a little bit more. He was very effective in the ground game in a change of base type scenario, and he's solid through the air. He needs the ball more. You know what? I'd say take AP out of the game plan for anything outside of short yardage, and these two touch the ball a combined 20, 25 times a game. Kerryon and Swift. That's it. Rely on the young guys.
I mean, I'll go as far as say I just want Swift to be to get the lion's share, maybe Kerryon to spell him for like 6-7 carries a game.
I'm fine with that. 15, 20 carries for DeAndre, like 15 carries for Swift, 5 for Kerryon. Sure. I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. 18 for Swift, 7 for Kerryon. Great. I like it. Let's do that. That's a good idea.
And I think until at least until Galladay comes back, we should be a run first football team with most of our passing offense going through our tight end. I think those are your, like, I don't want to say your running game is a strength, but those are your two best players in your offense right now are DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson.
Oh,
outside of
100%.
Stafford, but
100%. And I mean, Danny Amendola played a solid game, 7 for 77 is no slouch. I mean, he played well, led the team in targets as well. But TJ Hawkinson once again had a productive game. Was he great by any means? No, only 39 yards receiving on 5 catches, but he did score a touchdown from Chase Daniel. But he was once again productive and a guy you can reliably throw the football to and have him make a play. And that's what we need him to be and continue to be. So I'd even like to say up that target number even. Make this guy be what we drafted him to be. We drafted him to turn out to be the Travis Kelce's, the George Kittles of the world. Let's make him that.
I want to see more target games like this past Sunday. 8 targets. That's what I want to see for TJ Hawkinson.
I want to see double digits.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd love to see double digits, but like, I want to see him get at least 8 targets a game. I mean, I would like to see those 8 targets turn into more than 39 yards, but
I would too. So one more question.
Let's get the targets there to start. And
yeah, one more question before we move on here. So I know the last few weeks we've been touting this Lions run defense as maybe they're actually turning a corner and turning things around. Are you off that train entirely now? Because I certainly am.
And I'm still on the train of this coverage against tight ends is fraudulent. Irv Smith is torture for 2. So
I actually agree with you 100%. I don't think that this team can. I mean, I know he only had 2 catches for 10 yards, but they were very efficient. 2 touchdowns.
Kyle Rudolph had another 3 for 40.
Right. So, I mean, 5 catches for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns to tight ends. That ain't pretty.
Nope.
So, but,
No,
I mean,
sir.
You got absolutely torched by Dalvin Cook. And I know he's probably the best running back in the NFL right now, and he just torched the Packers last week, and their run defense is no good either. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I was just about to get on board with this Lions run D and say, hey, they've figured something out here. You know, they held Jonathan Taylor down. They allowed some pass-catching backs to make some noise, but they held Jonathan Taylor down. They held James Robinson down.
Albeit he got injured.
Right. Todd Gurley had a pretty decent game, but it wasn't a great game by any stretch.
Fantasy-wise, was buoyed by the touchdowns.
Right.
And one of them was accidental.
Yes, it was. So, but then Dalvin Cook comes along and just poops all over your hopes and dreams.
Reminds you when you see a guy like Aaron Jones or Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
They really are a bad run defense.
Yeah, yes, when you see a premier back in the league, it's tough to stop them, but
And what's scary is we're going to have to see them each again.
But did
you know who I'm
really
starting in
have to?
fantasy those weeks.
God. I don't care how expensive they are. I mean, it's one thing to have a guy like Dalvin Cook go off on you, but did you really have to give him 200 yards?
Right?
Like, that's embarrassing. And I know one of them, the 70-yard, 70 of them were when you only had 10 men on the field, but
that you take that out. It's 21 carries for 130 yards. So like,
and it ain't like Alexander Madison wasn't destroying you either. He was on pace for 100. He just ran out of time.
Yeah.
12 for 69, and that's a backup running back. Ouch.
Like, even in the receiving game, Dalvin Cook only had 2 catches, but 46 yards.
Yep.
Like,
Amir Abdullah. Abdullah 1 for 22
You let
and a
Amir
touchdown.
Abdullah score on you.
They made Amir Abdullah look like vintage Reggie Bush out there on that play. Oh, man. All right, let's move on. I'm getting depressed.
Yeah. I don't know how much longer I can talk about this team. All right, let's move on to the NBA. So, I think the biggest story coming out of the Pistons camp here is there are multiple reports now that the Pistons are coveting Patrick Williams at number 7. Some reports have gone so far as to speculate that they may have given him a promise at 7. Now, before all this, Patrick Williams was not really projected to go as high as 7. He was right around like the 10 to 15 range. We did talk a bit about Patrick Williams last week's podcast, but I want to see if we can get inside Troy Weaver's mind here and see, like, what do you think he sees in Patrick Williams? What do you think he envisions for him on this roster if this is true and he is actually gunning for him?
I think he sees a raw talent with a ton of athletic ability that he hopes that with this coaching staff, the way it is, he hopes to be able to develop it to be a future star. He looks at the way Pascal Siakam came into the league, coached by Dwayne Casey, and looked at and sees what he blossomed into, and underneath Dwayne Casey and then Nick Nurse following, and he sees that type of potential. He sees a raw, talented athlete that doesn't really do anything great, but can do just about anything on the floor. And he says, okay, maybe we can take a couple of these skills here and turn them great and make him a star player on the floor and be a lead guy that can control the offense and run the game through him. That's really what I can see. That's what I'm envisioning Troy Weaver's looking at when he looks at a guy like Patrick Williams. Is it the route I would go? Probably not.
And I echo that in the fact like Troy Weaver has been pretty vocal about the type of guys that he likes when he's evaluating players, and those are guys that are high effort, have a clear love for the game, have a high basketball IQ, and at least those all do fit Patrick Williams. Like those are all things you can use to describe him as a player. But I agree with you in the fact that me personally as a fan, it's just not, to me, the type of guy you take at number 7, like especially where you are as a team right now. I think as a team, you need to start with scorers. You need to start with guys that you can put the ball in their hands, because we don't quite have those people. Derrick Rose is on his way out. Blake Griffin is 90.
90 and on one leg.
Like I feel like it all starts with that. Like Patrick Williams could very well turn out to be a fine ball player, but the only way I can justify it is if you are really going for a
full rebuild.
Yeah, a long-term draft rebuild where you're going to draft Patrick Williams. He's probably not going to play much this year. You're going to have a high-end pick next year, and what will probably most likely be a much better draft, and grab someone there. But like I would love to solidify maybe a backcourt of the future by grabbing because there's a lot of really good point guards where you're picking, and grab one of those guys and pair him with a really good scorer next year, and and right there, as long as you hit on those picks, you have your backcourt of the future. Like I think the Patrick Williams pick is a little too niche of a pick for where you are as a team.
It also makes me wonder, what does the future hold for a guy like Sekou Doumbouya, who they really play the same position on the wing? Are they giving up on that project after 1 year already? So that does kind of concern me a little bit, because
because Troy Weaver didn't make that pick. He could be like, guys, that was a terrible pick. I don't want him. Right.
I mean, maybe because of the length with Patrick Williams, maybe you can move him into more of like a 3-4, like a kind of in-betweener type player, and see if you can run that. I can
definitely envision him as a small ball 4. I mean,
right.
He plays like a 4.
Now, on his draft profile on NBADraft.net, I just want to take a little excerpt here, and this is on his weaknesses side. It says, shows tons of untapped potential, but whether he will be able to tap that ability is the question mark. How badly does he want it? He likely will be a player that really benefits from a good development situation at the next level, or may not make it with his first team if he lands in the wrong situation. It also mentions he plays unselfish to a fault, can learn to play with more sense of urgency, and force the issue concerning his talent edge. So, and I really want to kind of zero in on he likely will be a player that really benefits from a good development situation. Now, I don't know about you, but in my experience as a Pistons fan, we haven't really been the best at developing raw talent in the last couple of decades. And that's with a multitude, like a mixture of coaching staffs in there, mind you. So, I do have a lot of faith in Dwayne Casey as a development coach. I do think he's able to develop talent quite well, and I do think he's put a staff in place that can develop talent as well. So if this is the route they're going, then you have to believe that they have a lot of confidence in their ability to develop raw talent. I mean, if he turns out to be his comparison in OG Anunoby, that's a pretty solid pick. I mean, that's a guy you can build around. That's a talent that you would happily build around in the spot you drafted him at number 7. And we'll see what happens there. But this is, like you mentioned, this is a situation where if they do take him, they are essentially guaranteeing that this is going to be a long-term rebuild where, okay, this year we get one of the future key pieces he's going to be used to develop, and then next year we get another one, and the year after we probably get another one with a better draft and a higher draft pick probably. So
it's just odd to start that with a complimentary piece rather than start with a centerpiece or a second-hand scorer.
I mean, if he does pan out to be OG Anunoby, maybe he can be the second or third key piece, a second or third building block of an organization. I mean, that is possible. I would be willing to have OG Anunoby be one of the 3 core guys I build around, absolutely. But, that's obviously super reliant on whether or not they're able to develop this guy to be that good.
And here's something I was thinking about today. Because this news came out yesterday, and I had been thinking about it because, it just didn't make much sense to me. I've been trying to reason with it, and that's part of what we were just talking about. But the thought came in my head that what if this is actually a smokescreen? What if the Pistons are trying to throw off the scent that they're actually interested in one of the point guards so that a team doesn't jump them in this draft?
So Killian Hayes moves back a little bit because he's been reported as going as high as 5, 6, and maybe the Pistons don't get him. Yeah, I can see that.
Because I know, I can't remember what mock draft it was. One of the most recent mock drafts I saw had Killian Hayes going at 6 via someone trading up and to get them. I can't remember who traded up. But it's starting to Killian Hayes is rising, and it's starting to become. I'm starting to see more and more mock drafts that have him going before the Pistons even get the pick, and that's a little scary. But but even then, I still like Hero Lewis Jr. a lot too. So I would like him also. But part of me was wondering because it's not often, especially with the Lions, it's not often we see a Detroit team throw up smoke screens, and we always want them to. So I was wondering if this was a situation where they're actually doing what we want them to do, and we're just not seeing it.
I mean, that is entirely possible. How often does that actually work? Very rarely.
Yeah.
Considering every team knows who they want and they have their draft board set up in a specific order, and if it's,
I just think this year's not a normal year. It's a really volatile draft because you didn't have a tournament this year,
right?
So.
But if a team wants to go get Killian Hayes and wants to trade and is willing to trade up to ahead of the team that could take him at number 7, they're going to, regardless of what we say, we're taking at number 7. If they want a guy bad enough, they're going to go get his ass, and I don't think the Pistons saying, oh, we're going to go with Patrick Williams at number 7, regardless of what you do, I don't think that's going to make the difference because if they are willing to trade up to 6, they're not, I mean, if they still want Killian Hayes. So if, even if they believe the Pistons that they were going to go to 7 or go with Patrick Williams at 7 and which meant Killian Hayes would drop. Well, I mean, they're not going to just wait till 8. They're not going to even take that chance. They're going to go get Killian Hayes at 6 and make sure they get him.
No, yeah, you're right about that, and the fact that it really, a lot of it is determined on what teams are actually willing to trade down to begin with. But I mean, if a team is looking at they can trade a 6 or they can trade a 8 to get Killian Hayes, and 8's considerably cheaper, and they really believe that the Pistons are taking a guy like Patrick Williams, that team might not move up to 6 and might wait and try to move to 8.
I don't know that 8 would be that much cheaper than 6, but
I know it's just a theoretical, but this is hypothetical. But now, that being said, I do, since the draft is, the 18th, right? I do next week want to do a little more bigger drafting. We can just give our, top 5 or top 3 scenarios for the Pistons, like what you want to see happen on draft night. But just for tonight.
Number 1, LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards drops to number 7.
So, one of the other rumors that's been circling around is that the Pistons are one of 4 teams that executives believe are most likely to trade up in this draft. Are you buying that? And if so, what do you think it's going to cost?
I don't know that I do buy it. I don't see it.
I don't know who they would want.
Okay, I understand.
Other than
Anthony
LaMelo.
Edwards or LaMelo Ball. I get that. But if LaMelo Ball's
Anthony
going
Edwards
1,
apparently had a really disappointing pro day. Apparently,
right? But if LaMelo Ball is going number 1, like reports are saying in the past couple of weeks, who else would they trade up to get? I mean, maybe they trade up to 5 or 6 to guarantee they get Killian Hayes, but I don't see who else they would trade up to get. They're not going up to get James Wiseman.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Obi Toppin's on their radar, much to my dismay, as much as I want him to be. I don't think
I hope they're not targeting Isaac Okoro. I'm done with those small forwards that can't shoot but they can play defense.
Oh, Stanley Johnson.
Yeah, I'm done with that project. 2.0. So I hope it's not. That. That's why I agree with you. Even though Troy himself has said, obviously, he said everything's on the table. He's not going to not say everything's on the table. But I do agree with you that I just don't see the Pistons. This is not a draft where the type of draft I want the Pistons to move up in, because this is the type of draft where I feel like the values could be a lot more scattered, because it's a lot harder to read because of the fact that you had a shortened season and no tournament.
There is one scenario where I can see and I would understand and cheer the Pistons moving up in this draft.
If there's a clear path to LaMelo.
Well, okay, all right, there's two scenarios. No, it's if they have very, very solid reports, very believable reports that there is a team that is going to trade up to number 6 to get Killian Hayes ahead of them.
I see.
They move up to 5 to make damn sure they get him first. That I would understand them making the move to do that, to move up to make sure they get him. I would understand that 100%. That's really the one scenario outside of obviously a clear path to LaMelo Ball, which ain't going to happen. But that, in my opinion, would be the one scenario I would say, okay, I can see them moving up to, 5 or 6 to make damn sure they get Killian Hayes in this draft.
Now, the other big rumor is the Boston Celtics are looking to bundle their 3 first-round picks to move up in this draft. And many,
how do they have so many picks every year? Why can't we do that?
Apparently, that's what Troy Weaver's trying to do, and this would be a start. Apparently...
Oh, wait, you have to have tradable assets. Sorry, I forgot.
There's a lot of belief that they're looking at Onyeka Okongwu, the center out of USC. That's who they're targeting in terms of moving up. Now, according to the latest NBC Sports mock draft and the latest Sporting News mock draft, both of them have us taking Onyeka Okongwu at 7.
But why?
So, that could very well be the range where he goes. Would you want to see the Pistons move back and take 3 first-round picks?
I mean, if they were beat to the punch on Killian Hayes, then yeah. If you were giving me 3 first-round picks to move back, yeah. I mean, I'm not in love with this draft outside of the top 4 or 5 players. I'm not. Mm-hmm. I really like Killian Hayes. I will say that. He's really the one guy. I mean, Kira Lewis Jr. is a guy that I wouldn't mind, but is he a guy that I'm going to build my franchise around? Probably not. So, I mean, this draft, maybe it's worth it. Maybe you package, maybe you end up trading back even further and trading a pick this year in the first round from one of those 3 to add a first round pick next year. I mean, when you have 3 first round picks, you can do a lot of good stuff. So
and the Celtics have 14, so you can still you may still be able to get Kira Lewis at 14. He may still be on the board there.
Cool. You mean to tell me I can get Lewis Jr. and I get 3 first round picks? Hell yeah.
And then you'd also get 26 and 30. And then you'd be taking stabs there.
You would.
But then again, I've said repeatedly, I think this is a draft where you're going to see a lot of people from later picks or the second round actually end up being good, because I do feel like player evaluation is a bit harder this year. So
not just that. I mean, you didn't have guys that had the opportunity to really make themselves a household name with the tournament. Mm-hmm. So I mean, exactly. there's players every year that jump up draft boards because of the tournament. So you really don't know what some of these guys are. On top of that, though, with all that draft capital, like I said, maybe you don't take a pick at 26 and 30. Maybe you turn that into picks next year in a better draft. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed with moving back to 14 and getting myself and taking the other 2 picks and getting myself a top 10 pick next year. Hell yeah. Having 2 picks in the top 10 next year? Oh, that'd be mighty nice.
That's what I'm saying. So even if Killian's on the board, I'd still actually consider that'd be outside of you staring LaMelo right in the face, which is probably not going to happen. That's probably the only guy that I'd be like, should we, or do we stay put? That's probably the only guy would make me second guess it. But for the most part, I would jump on the opportunity to move back in this draft and take 3 first round picks, because it's the type of draft I want to do that in.
Absolutely. I would jump at that opportunity in a heartbeat, because again, we are in a full rebuild here. And the best way to build, at least in the city of Detroit, is through the draft. Mm-hmm. And it's by being creative in the draft and turning extra picks this year into high picks next year. I mean, that's how you be creative in a draft. And that's how you utilize That's how you make a bad draft out to be successful. This isn't a solid, deep draft as like we've seen in some of the years past or like we'll see next year. This isn't a great draft by any stretch of the means from what we know of now. Obviously, that could turn out to be the opposite, but that's how you turn a draft that is a little lackluster into one that turns out to be really good. Is you turn it into future assets. And if with the type of draft capital the Pistons could get in a trade like this, they'd be able to do that. Or, hey, maybe they just take the picks. They take all three and they end up, they got 3 opportunities to get a guy that works out. Maybe they get 2. Hell, I'd be ecstatic.
And that does lead me to, I'm glad you mentioned it because it does help my next question here. This is the kicker. This is the closer, the rider, if you may say. Would you rather have the Pistons trade up to 5 and guarantee themselves Killian Hayes, or make this trade with the Boston Celtics, given they get Kira Lewis at 14?
Ooh. You'd honestly have to tell me what we're giving up to get to 5, because that would probably be the difference maker for me, because I really do have a lot of beliefs in Killian Hayes. I do. I think he can be a fantastic point guard in this league. But I'm not going to lie, I'm still going to lean a little bit more towards take the 3 first-round picks, get some extra stabs, or, ability to trade into some future assets for next year's draft when it might be a little bit better and you have a little bit more of an idea on player evaluation. So I'll go with the Boston trade over moving up.
I'll agree with you 100%. I as much as I love Killian Hayes in this draft, I'm taking the draft capital. I'm all about the draft capital. Give me the draft capital. It gives you flexibility. It gives you liquidity. You can do whatever you want at that point. So I am agreeing with you. And again, like I said, I think this is the type of draft where you want more picks than less because I'd rather throw
more stabs.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about all I have in terms of our draft talk. We'll take a deep dive in next week's episode.
I do have one more question before we sign off here. When is a Detroit sports team going to be good again?
Oof.
Like, I feel like we're talking about a rebuild with the Pistons. We're talking about wanting the Lions to rebuild because shit ain't good. And the Tigers are in the midst of a rebuild, which actually may be starting to come to fruition. The Wings are in a rebuild, which I think is at a point where they're kind of they've reached that bottom and now they're back on the upslope. But when are we going to see a good team in the city again? Not even our college teams are any good right now. I mean, Michigan State's basketball team might be pretty good, and so does Michigan's. But
I'm just gonna put a big X by the Lions. I'm never gonna project them to be good.
No, you can't. You can't.
The Pistons,
I think you're looking at least 5 years.
Yeah, so I'm saying you're at the very beginning stages of a rebuild here. So I'm not seeing anything looking up for the Pistons until like 2025. Unless the only way is if they hit home runs for like 3 straight drafts.
Oh, I got another good question for you.
And like they managed to get a good trade in there or a good signing, then you could see it. But they'd have to really hit home runs in like 3 straight drafts. So I don't think it'd be. I might have to go with Tigers 2024.
Oh, that's so far. I mean, I'll say 2023. Maybe I'm ambitious.
Because I do love I do think Torkelson's like our guy of the future here.
I mean, I think they got a lot of good pitching prospects, and I like Torkelson and I like Riley Green. Those are a couple of guys that I do like. I mean, I give them 3 years, 3 years at best.
And I just don't know enough about the Red Wings. Sorry to project anything on them because
the Wings I think are the closest. If you ask me, I actually give them 2 more years, and I think that team is competing for a playoff spot. But I got another good question to kind of close things out.
Yeah.
I want to know your trust meter on the GMs of the 4 major sports teams in this city. Oof. I want your trust meter because we have 3 teams in a rebuild and one that we desperately want to go into a rebuild. Where's your trust meter and rank it too?
It's a 0 for Bob Quinn. He's lost all my trust at this point.
He has 0 trust from me.
Troy Weaver. I mean, obviously he literally just got the job. But I'll say I'm optimistic about him, so I'll put him at a 7 right now.
Okay.
But like it's an unproven 7, but it's just that's pure optimism, I guess. I trust Stevie Y.
I'll be honest with you. So Bob Quinn is 0 for me as well. He's my lowest. My second lowest is Al Avila. I've got about a 4 with him. out of
I'll
10.
agree with you there.
My third,
I think Steve Y is my highest.
My second highest is Troy Weaver. I'm pretty much right on board with about a 7. I may even go an 8 with Troy Weaver, but my highest is Stevie Y. I trust him implicitly. He's proven. He's the only one who's really proven in this league in the city. I mean, he's proven it by building a championship contending team and a team that ended up winning a title last year after he left in Tampa. So I think and the moves he makes just seem so calculated and they make sense.
Yeah.
I like it. It's so weird to see moves that make sense and are calculated in this city and not just like you're throwing darts at a dartboard. So I'd give him a 10.
10?
Yes, I trust him implicitly. Until he proves me wrong, I trust him implicitly.
I do have one more really random question for you. How much, as a Pistons fan, as a fan of the going to work Pistons, how much does it hurt for you to see Chauncey take an assistant coaching job with the Clippers and the Pistons not having been able to nail down anything for him?
I mean, it hurts a little bit. I think he's honestly probably a little bit bitter about it too.
We couldn't even find an assistant job for him.
Right. Like,
if he was willing to take an assistant coaching job, we couldn't find that for him.
He kind of feels like a little bit like the Pistons turned their backs on him too. Like I just like the fact that he went so far removed from anything to do with Detroit. Yeah. Just tells me that he feels like they turned his back on them. Like, at least it's not he didn't go to Chicago or Indiana or Boston or something like that. But I mean, to go all the way down to the Clippers, I mean, it hurts a little bit to see. But I mean, I do eventually think he ends up back home. I do. Yeah. I think he eventually comes back and is a part of this organization in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't blame him for being. I mean, the way he got traded. Like, right. Yeah, Joey do apologize to him, but like the way he got outed here was it wasn't fun.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's all I got.
Alrighty, that is going to call it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week. Andrew, thank you for joining me, and thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast, as always. Follow us on Twitter, @RealFanReport, where we post, obviously, this episode, as well as our fantasy football podcast, The Fanalists.
And you get to see Nick do the helicopter dance if the Lions go to the playoffs.
I will not be recording that. I will just allow you to visualize. You can visualize, and hopefully you hadn't eaten within the last couple hours.
We'll have an animator animate it.
Oh man! As long as never mind. As long as we get nice. one of those caricature artists that like exaggerates certain parts of your body. Oh man, Jesus Christ. Anyways, though, hope you guys enjoyed. We will catch you next week. This has been the Fan Report. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Oh, have a good one, guys. Peace out.
See ya.